I think we've all been there. We see someone across the bar and our skin tingles. Their eyes are smoky, their body is ripped, and they're looking at us like we're gonna be their next meal. We slide over and say, hey, how you doing? And before we know it, we find ourselves either in a bathroom stall or the back of our car or in their bedroom, pressed up against one another. And when it begins, our world is swirling and it feels amazing and we can't believe that we are so lucky. And as you press into one another and start to explore each other's bodies, it starts to feel not quite as exciting. We start to get more in our heads and think, what am I doing? What are they thinking? Are they liking what I'm doing? Should I be doing something different? What did they do in that porno I watched last week? And as you continue moving up against one another or going inside one of another, you start to think, well, this is fun, but it's not everything I ever wanted. And after a few more minutes, you're starting to think about other things. Your laundry, the cat, the food you wish you had eaten for dinner. You haven't called your mother in a while. I really should follow up with my good friend Steve. I haven't texted him. Meanwhile, you're being plowed from behind and going, oh, this is amazing. This is wonderful. Oh yeah. But your heart's not really in it. It's not the ecstatic experience that you were hoping for. And by the time you and them are done and have finished your business, you feel a little bit empty. You feel like, damn, this started with such good potential and I didn't get what I wanted. How many of you have been in that experience? Because I know I have. More or less every hookup situation I've been in, even with me approaching it with the best intent, has left me feeling a little lackluster at the end. In fact, I've even heard from some of the people I coach with that they've had sex with hundreds or thousands of individuals. Only in rare instances have they felt that transcendent, oh my God, I feel amazing and fulfilled and juicy and delicious after having sex. After hundreds or thousands of partners, only a scant few left them feeling as amazing as they hoped. Because all too often, a hookup starts with amazing passion and potential, but ends up feeling hollow, fizzling out, or not fulfilling us in the way we hoped. So if we haven't met before, I'm Kay. I'm a spiritual life coach and I run this channel Ecstatic Self where we talk about sex, sexuality, spirituality, and how those things come together. And if you haven't yet, please go ahead and click down at the bottom, subscribe, along with the bell next to it for notifications about when I'm posting a next video, and join me on Sundays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time for a live meditation class. So something I hear time and time again from clients and people I work with is that sex is just not fulfilling. You might find a partner with an amazing body, beautiful genitals, great hair, a sweet face, a kind disposition, but the interaction doesn't leave you feeling awesome. So there's a few things that go into this, and with many things in life we should begin with ourselves, because the problem and the solution to those problems usually lies within. So the first thing to really be asking yourself is, one, am I actually present to the experience? Am I actually in the experience of a sexual interaction, or is my mind elsewhere? Because if you aren't actually there with the person, it's not going to be fulfilling. The second thing, and a little bit harder to do, is to be truly honest with yourself about, do I even really want to be having this hookup right now? We live in a culture that idealizes this notion of having lots of sex or having random acts of sex is going to make us happy. And depending on you and where you're at in your life, it may. But there's also a good chance that it might not actually be what your soul's asking for right now. And that can be a hard thing to admit because we want to fit into the tropes that culture tells us. Like, we want to be thin, rich, and fabulous. We want to be somebody who can just go out and fling it around and, oh, isn't this amazing? I love this, yes. I love going out and getting nailed by a different person every night. I love shoving my dick inside of his ass all the time. But maybe that's not actually what you really want. And it can take some guts to admit that because we're supposed to. In society, we get validation as men for being somebody who proves our sexual prowess through multiple or regular sexual partners. By demonstrating that we can fuck or be fucked all the time, we show that we are a valuable commodity. And so to consciously opt out of that can feel like somehow we're diminishing our social capital. Like, there's something to be able to go back and brag to your friends and be like, oh, check out this hot girl or this hot dude I fucked last night. Doesn't that reflect well on me? But there are individuals and there are times in individuals' lives where that isn't necessarily what we want or what's going to make us feel fulfilled. So it can can be an act of bravery to admit that maybe I don't actually want to be hooking up right now. But assuming that these first two things are being accounted for, that you're actually being present to the experience and you actually want to be there, the next thing you need to be aware of is what is the intent that you and your partner are coming into this with? What is it that you really want out of the experience? Because if you're going into a sexual encounter and you're not feeling fulfilled by it, what might be happening is that you want something a little bit different than you're being given. Now, as sex positive as queer culture and male culture can be about, hey, go out there, get your needs fulfilled, go get it, there is this idea about sex being transactional, that it's just a physical thing, right? There's no emotions, it's just pure, raw, animalistic expression. I hear that all the time. It's just effing. It's just going at it. It's just penis inserted into orifice of some kind. How much does that actually fulfill you? Because I'm gonna be honest, if I'm just rating pure physical experiences, 9 times out of 10, I get more physical pleasure from my own hands than another person's body. And maybe I'm unusual in that capacity, and maybe I just have really fabulous hands. But really, if we're just talking about pure physical stimulation, I can do a better job than most anybody else could probably do for me. With the notable exception of my husband, who I spent years training. So if that at all resonates as true with you, then we have to kind of question that idea of it's purely physical. Because I think for most of us, it's actually not. What we want from a sexual encounter may be actually something a little bit different. Now hear me out about this. You may be right that you're not maybe looking for love, you may be not looking for a new best friend, you may not be looking for a life partner, but you are looking for something more than just skin to skin friction. And I'm gonna hazard a guess that thing that you're actually looking for is connection, being seen, really seeing someone else, and feeling vulnerable. Now that fourth word, vulnerability in particular, gets a bad rap, especially as men. I'm gonna be vulnerable, I'm not gonna let anybody affect me, I'm a man, no one can hurt me. Well, frankly, that's bullshit. Because to feel fulfilled in life, to feel powerful, to feel in ourselves, that means we have to risk being vulnerable. It means we have to risk being seen. It means we have to risk showing up fully. And by showing up fully, the potential for hurt comes. One of my favorite speakers is Brene Brown, and she goes as far to say that there can be no courage without vulnerability. One of her favorite stories is working with a group of Navy SEALs and saying, is it possible to have an act of courage without vulnerability? Is it possible to go out there and save that wounded soldier? Is it possible to go out there and say to that person, I love you? Is it possible to go out there and send your kid off to school for their first day without feeling vulnerable? And even in this group of Navy SEALs, the answer is no. There is no courage without vulnerability. So why is it that so many of us seek connection through sex, but are afraid of vulnerability? Right? That I'm gonna go into the sexual encounter, I am just gonna, hopefully not that, whatever your sexual gesture is. That I'm gonna go in there and I'm not gonna be vulnerable, right? I'm just gonna penetrate this person, or I'm just gonna use them in a certain way, or I'm going to be used in a certain way, but there's not gonna be any vulnerability. I'm sorry, but that's just a recipe for disaster. You're not gonna have fun, you're not gonna have intimacy, you're not gonna have actual connection. In order to actually be with somebody, you have to fully be all of yourself there. You have to be fully present, you have to be vulnerable. And especially in a hookup situation where you're not sharing a lot of details, sometimes not even your name, that's a hard thing to ask. And I'm gonna take this even one step further, which is the times in my life where I've had meaningful and fulfilling sex, it's been times where I've felt a strong, energetic, or spiritual connection, a soul connection to the person I'm with. Now that doesn't necessarily mean I need to know their life story or be in a relationship, but it does mean that I'm approaching sex with the intent of connection, seeing and being seen, being vulnerable, and then that last element, which is I want something more than just purely physical. I want to feel like our souls touch. I want to feel like this person fills my energetic batteries in some way. I want to feel worshipped, adored, cherished, but not just for this physical stuff, not just for my body, not just for my dick, not just for my ass, not just for my skills as a lover, but seen and cherished and adored for the light inside of me, for the person inside of me, for my soul stuff. And if I'm going to be connecting with someone sexually, I want to feel like we're approaching this from a tender space of love. Oh, and I know that love is a scary word, but I don't necessarily mean in love with somebody. I don't necessarily mean like, oh my gosh, I'm so in love with you and I'm moving in and we're adopting 2 terriers and 3 small Indonesian children. I mean, I love you as a human, as a brother or sister, as a fellow human being on this planet. I love you and I worship that divine inside of you. And we're gonna approach this love-making as healing. And approaching it this way doesn't mean that it can't be rough. It doesn't mean that it can't be animalistic. It doesn't mean that it can't be wild and ecstatic. Very much it can be those things. But is there that something greater? Is there that spark of something special that makes you go, oh my God, yes, 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 oh my God, yes, ah. Because that's what I want. I don't want to just fake it. I don't want to have to just pretend like I'm into it. I don't want to just have to make it look like I'm having the best sex of my life. I want to have the best sex of my life. But it's a tall order to find someone with whom you can find that. Now, I'm very blessed that I have my husband with whom I genuinely feel that ecstatic, soul-touching sort of sex every time we make love. That when he connects with me, it isn't just a stimulation of my prostate or my penis, but it's a stimulation of every fiber of my soul. And that's why he's my husband. I met that and I said, I am locking this down. I am getting this every night, maybe twice a night, maybe 3 times if I'm lucky. I want to have sex in such a meaningful way with this feeling as often as I can. And it's kind of a rare person that can offer it, because most people just aren't in tune with that. They're scared of their vulnerable bits. They're scared of deeply being in touch with themselves and another person. And far too often too, people can only have sex if they are in a chemically altered state through drugs or alcohol, which frankly prevents a high level of connection. As much as I love having sex with my husband, I generally don't like him touching me if he's had a few too many drinks before coming to bed. It doesn't feel as good. It doesn't feel as intimate. It doesn't feel as real. So if you do find somebody who you want to hook up with and you want something more meaningful, you gotta see if they're willing to go there. Are they able and willing to maybe take a few minutes with you before you start getting hot and heavy? Do some centering, do some deep breathing together. Just simply sit and observe one another. Observe their experience, observe your experience, and realize that sex is as much an energetic experience as it is a physical. That in order to have this amazing orgasmic high, it has to be an awareness of things going on internally, psychically, as much as it is of an awareness of what's going on in your body. So there it is. Some reasons why hooking up may not be as fulfilling as you hoped, and some ways that we can maybe start to make it feel better. It's not easy to find someone who can give you all of that, and if you're struggling to find it, it's okay. It may take some time. And you may end up being like me and saying that, you know what, just random acts of sex, it's not what I really want. I want so much more. I want to be transported up to heaven and back when I make love to someone. And if you can't give me that, you ain't worth my time, my body, or my energy, right? Because somebody can be astoundingly beautiful, but if they're not connected with their soul, the experience that they're going to give is going to be a little insufficient. And for what it's worth, I am pretty confident I'm going to get some comments down below saying, Kay, you are wrong. I like nothing more than being plastered out of my mind, strapped into a sling, and having 50 guys fuck the daylights out of me, and that brings me the greatest fulfillment I could ever imagine. In which case, more power to you. I am so glad that you are getting your needs met, and I am not going to yuck your yum. But if you're not that person who is like, no, I just love getting railed in every direction and having, mindless, anonymous sex, then maybe this will speak to you. I don't have all the answers. I don't even have some of the answers. I just have the things that I've observed that resonate with me and what I've heard from the stories of the many others that I listen to day in and day out. Because ultimately, there's no right or wrong way to go about living. If you find a way of living that works for you and brings you joy and satisfaction and health and well-being and a delicious lusciousness as you go about your day, then keep on doing it. Keep on doing it. But if you're like me and the answers that conventional wisdom and everyday life has given you don't seem to be filling all the holes, then maybe you need something more. And I hope this conversation today maybe answered some of that for you. If this was meaningful to you, please share this video with a friend who you think might also enjoy it. Check out my book, Journey to the Ecstatic Self, available online wherever books are sold. And maybe consider working with me one-on-one as a spiritual guide, life coach. You can check out my website, ecstaticself.com, for more information. And if ever you have a request for any of these videos, please do not hesitate to shoot me an email or drop a comment below. And I'm happy to talk on anything that is inspiring you. Thanks for your time and energy. It is a sincere pleasure to get to be here with you today. Namaste.
Come on, you didn't think I would find